This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Wahid Invest, revolutionizing halal investment. Greetings of peace. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Freshly Grounded. This episode is brought to you by Wahid Invest. Wahid Invest. Guys, listen here. Have you got some savings? Have you got some savings? Now, if you got some savings, which we all should try and have, don't put them in your savings account. Put them in Wahid. What is Wahid? Who are Wahid Invest? What is it? Wahid Invest is a platform online that you guys can basically put your money into. So you can put your savings into it. You can also put non-savings into it, but I specifically love the idea of putting your savings into it. And I'll explain why. But you can put money into this account. And what they do is they invest your money into halal businesses. How do you know the businesses are halal? The reason you know the businesses are halal is because they have a Sharia board, they have a compliance board, and they do all of these checks on these companies before they invest your money into these companies. So they check if the company operates in a halal way, makes halal decisions. They make sure that the company doesn't deal with riba or deal with gambling or alcohol or adult films. And so these are clean halal companies that they invest your money into. And you're saving all the work. You're not trying to find a halal company to put your money into. You're not trying to figure out how you can make sure your savings build money. You just put your money into Wahid. They do all the hard work for you. And you just, inshallah, watch your money grow. Also, the reason I say savings is because often we put our savings into a savings account, and then what happens is that those savings account build interest, and then what happens is we have to, like, at the end of every month figure out how much interest we've accumulated so we can pay it back to the bank or give it away. And so Wahid takes all that away. Your money is just sitting there and it's still accumulating wealth, inshallah, in the long run, but it just doesn't use interest, and it invests your money so you can jump on board, be an investor, and there's some really cool people out there who recommended like really cool ways of investing and stuff, but even if you were to, for example, invest 15% of your wealth every year or every month and you use it as like a retirement fund, if you're on a good salary, by the time you're 60, you'll be a millionaire. You'll be a millionaire, And who doesn't want to be a millionaire? Think about all the good you can do if you're a millionaire, guys. So head over to freshlygrounded.com/Wahid. That's freshlygrounded.com/WAHED. Guys, Wahid have helped people all over America invest their money into halal portfolios, and now they've come to the UK. You can sign up from as little as £100 and you're good to go. Don't just let your savings sit in a bank account. Invest them with Wahid. Wahid Invest, revolutionizing halal investing. Check out freshlygrounded.com/Wahid. WAHED. This episode of the podcast is with a brother called Jamal, who I met presenting Iman Channel, but is very well known amongst like the Muslim community. He's been active in the da'wah for years. He's been doing Deen riders, so you'll probably recognize him from there. He also works with iERA. He works in loads of media outlets. He's a TV presenter, and it was such an amazing episode. So much wisdom in this episode. He also does marriage counselling. So a lot of this episode we were speaking about marriages, what's going wrong in young Muslims' marriages, what's going right, how one should treat their wife, how a wife should treat their husband, expectations we should have of each other. We also spoke a bit about Deen riders, the da'wah, Jamal's conversion, and amazing stuff. Jamal's been Muslim for longer than some of us have actually been alive. So, and I hope that doesn't offend Jamal me saying that. I didn't mean it that way, but there's a lot of times where I'm trying to like pick at Jamal's wisdom in this episode because being that he's in like the older generation. He's not even old. Like he's not like an old man. He's just like a regular middle-aged man. But I kept trying to mention that Jamal, I'm just trying to pick at your wisdom, and I felt like I didn't want to offend him. So Jamal, if you're listening to this, please forgive me if I was rude. And with that being said, guys, this is Freshly Grounded. I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's get into the episode.
And welcome to Freshly Grounded, the brand new podcast by best friends Faisal and Sam.
Huh?
I said welcome to Freshly Grounded.
After that bit.
The brand new podcast.
And after that bit?
By best friends Faisal and Sam.
Really?
Cool. And we are live. Let me just chuck the backup audio on. And yes, I was just saying before we went on that I had to do the Marine Ali episode. So what happened is he basically messaged me. Do you remember a few months ago? I don't know how much. Are you into cricket?
Nope.
No, my. But basically, a few months ago, what happened is England were playing, I think, like Australia or something in London, or India or something, and because of the rain, it got cancelled, and so they found out, like last minute that it got cancelled, and the players were all ready, and they're not allowed to have their phones on them because of match fixing. So he couldn't tell me that what was going on. So then he just messaged me at like 6 o'clock or something, saying, "Hey, can you come to my hotel by like 7 or something like that, and I've got an hour spare," or something like that.
Wow.
And bro, I just got I jumped in my car from where I live, which is about 30 minutes or 35 minutes with no traffic. Rushed here with my suitcase, chucked all of my podcast equipment in the suitcase, and got an Uber from here to his hotel, and ended up doing the episode. And I done like this, like there was no producer or anything, so I had to like keep getting up and turning the camera on and off. But stuff like that is what makes it, man. You got to put in, I suppose, that little bit. Yeah, man. Because if you let things like that deter you from putting out episodes out, or for making things happen, oh no, it might not be perfect, or this, like that, you're not gonna end up doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what happened. So that's what ended up happening with that one.
What was he like? I've never met him before. What was he like?
Bro, one of the most amazing and humblest people you'll ever meet. So,
he comes across that way.
Bro, he didn't care for fame. He doesn't care for fame. He just happened. What the field that he happens to be in happens to be a field that makes you famous. But he loves cricket, and that's his love, not the fame. And he actually turns down. He said to me that I don't know why I did this interview, because I don't do interviews. He said something just like kind of told me, like I told you I would do it, so I wanted to fulfill that promise, but I don't do interviews.
That's
and
nice.
He said that he actually, if you go on his Instagram, what you'll see is that he doesn't follow celebrities as much as he actually follows like Quran reciters and stuff like that. And he said that the thing that the people who I see as celebrities and who I look up to are the people of the Quran. And he said that you don't have people who want to meet the celebrity. He feels like that over people who are into Quran and stuff.
That's beautiful, man. So he's humble. He definitely looks. It comes across that way. Yeah, mashallah. I mean, obviously, when you have all this kind of all these scandals and stuff like that, I don't think he'll ever be a part of anything like that.
The most that ever happened is, I think, like around the time of the whole. He wore a band once on his wrist that said like "Free Palestine," and there was like loads of drama about it. He was all over the media, and I think he might have even got a ban from match, but he stood up for himself and he said, look, there's like, basically, because their argument was you can't have anything political, and he was saying, but other people have the Help for Heroes bans, which is obviously political. But yeah, so that's the only time. But yeah, he's never really been caught up in that. He just likes to live a private life.
But you know what I always say about cricket? You know, they say it's like watching paint dry, don't they?
Yeah, and it's so long. Like some of the matches are like, in fact, I think a one-day match is like the shortest, and they can go on for like weeks and stuff. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about you. Jazakallah khair, first of all, for joining us, or for joining me. First question has to be first, and that is, did you come here on your motorbike?
No, today I didn't come on my bike. When it gets really cold, we tend to ride less. But previously, I would ride rain or shine, and the only time I wouldn't ride would be, for example, if it's snowing. But this year I've been really lazy, and in actual fact, we haven't done that much. We've done a lot this year, but I've been lazy. So yeah, I came in the car today.
And so how many motorbikes do you have?
Myself, only one.
Okay. And And is it what motorbike is that?
So I ride it's called a Suzuki Hayabusa.
Okay.
And a while ago, it used to be the fastest road production bike in the world.
No way.
Yeah, and I used to pride myself that even though I can't ride it like that to save my life. But it was just nice.
I'm sure you're an amazing rider, man.
I don't know about that, yeah, but the prestige of having a nice bike like that was really good. But nowadays, even smaller engine bikes, the sports obviously ones, they're going faster than my bike. So bikes are now hitting maybe 210 miles an hour now and stuff like that.
When did you buy the bike that you have now?
Well, my one, I bought it about maybe 5 years ago, but at that time, other bikes were still starting to take over by that time. So but the style of bike that it is, it's a sports touring bike, and it's amazing. This is a phenomenal ride. And it's very, very comfortable as well.
You can tell that you really have a love for
the bikes.
riding.
Yeah.
What number bike is this that you've owned?
That's a good question. So,
when did you start riding?
I started riding about, I'd say, 20 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
you mind me rudely asking how old you are now?
How old am I?
Is that, are you not allowed?
No, you can. No. 50,
Okay.
53. Yeah. People always say that. You know, like my before my beard started turning colour, I used to get away with I could pass for like 30. So they tell me anyway, but they're probably being polite anyway. Even
nah, Jamal, honestly, you look so young. Honestly, I think you know that. You look young.
I don't know.
You don't need to be humble about that one.
You know what though, bro? After it takes a little time for you to, I suppose, accept your age.
Okay.
And that's really important because you do certain things. Obviously, I still try to keep fit, except for the stomach. Always trying to keep that in. But you can't escape the fact that every year you're getting a bit older, so you tend to do less things, and you reach a certain age where when you're young you sing, and when you get old you sort of like you make noises when when you get up, just getting up, think, I didn't do that last year.
Wow, that's how you measure it.
How you measure it. Yeah.
Did you see recently on Good Morning Britain there was this guy, he came on and he basically was I think he was from Holland or something, I can't remember exactly, or France, but he was basically campaigning against the government to let him legally change his age, because he was like in his 60s, but he felt like a 40-year-old just in how he was, and he was basically coming to like legally change his age because he just didn't feel like his age. And they were basically saying to him, but you literally are that age. And he was like, no, that's just when I was born, but that is not how old I feel, and I should be legally, you're allowed to change your name, so why can't you change your age? But it's like, because it's facts, like you're literally born.
I would have said to him, you know what, I'll tell you what, go and ask my mum. Yeah, and she listened to him for 2 minutes and then she go, just go and sit down.
Yeah, give him a slap. How crazy is that though? And especially you think like, you're a grown man, like, and is that really what you want to do with your time? Like,
that's just a waste of time, I have to say. Just, if you feel younger, then just carry on acting younger.
Exactly.
But don't do silly things. Obviously.
What's it gonna do if you're on your ID, your age changes? Absolutely nothing.
No.
He actually lost that court case anyway. So
it's just a waste of time.
Yeah,
I wonder how much you spent on that.
Probably thousands.
Yeah.
He got his publicity out of it. So
yeah, but we'll soon forget him though, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Very true. So, so you started riding 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But and that was when you were not Muslim. Right?
No, I was Muslim. I was Muslim at the time. Yeah.
So how old were you when you became Muslim?
I don't remember.
Really?
I don't remember, but
it was over 20 years ago.
Over 20 years ago, yeah.
And what was it like back then? Like, because now you see, maybe because of social media, but you see reverts like left, right, and center, and it's alhamdulillah like it's very open now. What was it like back then, becoming a Muslim?
Well, I mean, obviously we were still getting stick, as it were, like from the media, but around that time, I believe I might have been Muslim 1992, it could have been, or something like that. Yeah.
I was born in 94.
Was it?
Yeah.
So yeah, 2 years before you were born then. And yeah, I think the times then were, obviously not as bad. We're getting a lot more stick now. But it was okay. But it was just interesting back then, obviously, the way that things were. I mean, me, a black man, becoming Muslim and kind of going to the mosque for the first time. And obviously, like having this kind of this misconception, I believe it was at the time, where I'm thinking like, wow, these Asians are racist. This is what we were thinking. Myself and my brother-in-law, we became Muslim around the same time.
Your brother-in-law also black?
Yeah, and the reason why we had this, and it was a misconception based on the context, was that what would happen is, right, we go to the mosque and we were taught like, you need to, when you go to the mosque, you're meant to touch feet with the person that's standing next to you. So then we go into the mosque, right? And it'd be like, wait, every time I try to touch this person's foot, he's moving his foot away.
Right.
What's the matter with this guy, man? You know, so every time, so we kept moving our foot, and eventually we were like, almost like doing the splits. And it was like, this is crazy. Then later on we found out, oh, no, there's different types of Muslim, like these, you know,
Right.
The Hanafi, they don't practice that and blah, blah, blah. So it was a really interesting learning curve for us at that time, you know, and even when it came to things like understanding the prayer, we used to go for Jummah, and we used to have this competition between us that, like, well, we just do lots of like this thing called Sunnah.
Right.
So whilst the khutbah's taking place, people were looking at us like thinking, what are these guys doing, man? We used to do about, like, we used to come out and say, yeah, I did 20 rakah. Like, so throughout the whole khutbah, we were just doing like, these, that's our understanding. That's what it was at the time. You know, so it was really interesting, because after a while you started to learn, no, you just come and you do 2 sunnah and you sit down. That's it. You know? But,
well, it sounds like, I mean, I'm sure you told your revert story so many times, so I definitely, I'm not asking you to kind of give us a long version, but in a synopsis, what led you to and made you interested in Islam?
there were the 2 paths leading to the same destination. One was a very close friend of mine who brought a book on black activism, and he was meant to read it and he didn't. He left it at my house. So I picked it up, started to read it. Then from that time, it was like I was like a militant black man now, that, you know, this anger,
right.
this hatred sort of thing. But that book led to another book on obviously black history. Then on this journey, it came across inevitably to Malcolm X.
Okay.
And obviously the rest was history, because like first he was this obviously this angry man, but then we had this understanding that, hang on a second, you know, obviously you know, he followed the pure path of Islam, and so during that time, some of my neighbors, who actually you may well know, one of them is Khalil Muhammad, the Nasheed artist, who at the time he wasn't a Nasheed artist, but he used to be my neighbor. I won't say his what his name was before he was Muslim.
I recognize his name, but I can't put a face to a name.
Yeah, Khalil Muhammad. So he and his uncle and a few other friends as well, they were giving me dawah at the same time. So along that course, it was like inevitable, as I said, that it just all came together, and alhamdulillah, came into the Deen.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, it's good.
And wow. So because then, as at what point did Deen Riders become a thing then, after you know, in this period of time?
Yeah, so what happened is we were kind of myself and a few brothers, we used to meet up on Sunday morning to go for rides, very, very dangerous rides, I must say. And surprising that we're still alive today, subhanAllah, because, you know, obviously not having an understanding too much about the safety on the road, and riding these machines where we used to ride with non-Muslims, and I have to say they were nutters, right? They were crazy. So we used to have this ride called the Barnet Run. Mm-hmm. So on a Sunday we'd go out and we'd meet these guys, and like, we'd just hit out on these country roads, and obviously any police watching, it was like, this is like, you know, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah.
We used to hit some serious speeds on the road. Wow. And it was really crazy. I'm just really surprised. Even on one occasion, I did this thing called, it's called like a high side. What happens is you're in the corner, and then the traction from the back of the bike, you lose a bit of traction, so it kind of goes into a skid. But then when it corrects itself, it just whips itself back and it flips you off. So you might see it on the racetrack where someone might come off at 200 miles an hour. Obviously on a racetrack, they'll be fine. On a road, it's certain death. But I didn't even have an understanding. I was so new as a rider back then that even when it started to high side, it started to lose traction, but I somehow like brought it back again. And then when we came to the stop, this guy, I didn't even know him. I never met before in my life, but he was on this ride with us. I don't even know what his name was. And when we stopped, he just came over to me, just hugged me. Really? And he goes, mate, I thought you were a gunner there. And I was thinking, I had no understanding, man. So that's how crazy riding was at that time. So myself and my 2 Deen Rider partners, we sat down and we decided, like, let's start something, because we noticed a lot of Muslim riders out there. So we should start something where obviously we can look out for the brothers, and we can also do something good. Wow,
so that triggered it because of basically the love of brotherhood, basically.
Yeah. And we thought we could do something good rather than just, you know, if you think about it, you go out for a ride, you burn all that money on fuel, and what have you got to say for it? Okay, yeah, at the end of it, you can say, oh, I had a nice ride, but it's just like a waste of time and money. So that's why we thought, let's start something. And Deen Riders was born 2000 and 6, I think it was.
Do you have any idea how much money you guys, obviously you don't do it to like label it, and you probably prefer not to know, but do you have an estimate of how much you guys have impacted in terms of finances towards charities and stuff?
No, we just have like a simple understanding, which is that we only work with registered charities, because obviously there's some complications that can happen along the way, and we just do what we can for them. So, you know, sometimes we've done really, really well. One particular year for raising money for the Syria refugees, we probably raised about 70,000, and I think that was in Ramadan. So sometimes it's really, really good, and sometimes it's quite, you know, not so good. But alhamdulillah, the brothers, they're happy that they love doing it, and just because of the area that we're in, one of the main focuses that we did this year was on Grenfell.
Okay.
Yeah, so we did a lot of awareness rides and just supporting the survivors. That's been really good.
Isn't it crazy how such a niche can still have such a big impact? Because it goes to show that if people play their parts in the stuff that they're good at, or the stuff they're talented at, or the stuff that they're passionate in, things would be so beautiful, because everyone can make an impact based off of what they love. And you guys, you just were into rides, you went to riding, and you'd have fun, and you used that to do good, and it makes you think like, you know, people might be thinking, what is it that I can do to do good? But sometimes you have to actually just think to yourself, what is it that I love to do, and how can I then alter that to do good? Because I suppose with the right intention, you can make anything great, and why not make something that you're already good at a path for you to, inshallah, attain Allah's mercy, really?
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I think sometimes as well, people, like, obviously we are a community of sadaqah, charity, right? We love to give sadaqah, but at the same time, we also like to be like inspired, and we like to be entertained. Yeah. So there's a bit of challenge sometimes. You know, you might have, like, you know, I don't know, Fulan and his family, they are going to the Lake District, and they're going to do like a 1 mile walk. Now that's a fantastic thing that they're doing, but unfortunately, people will be sort of not really inspired by that. So when they're asking for a lot of money, they might just get, I don't know, £100 or £200. Whereas if they love to walk as a family, but all I'd say to them is basically that you need to try and think outside of the box. Right. You know, what could you do, for example, like, so you're going to go for a walk, but maybe introduce some elements of it, of interest, and then you'd normally do better, because so many people are doing a 1 mile or a 5 mile walk, or even the 3 peaks is sort of so overdone. It
is now, yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, people who are donating, they'll donate anyway, but as like I said, you know, we like to be entertained, so maybe think of something, you know, a bit different, using the same passion, but just change it up a little bit. Yeah. And that's what we do. So we've got different elements, different campaigns that we might do, and we just reintroduce different ones.
Have you got something planned soon?
No, we're being approached by a few charities for next year, so we can sit with them and decide on what we're going to do. But unfortunately, because of health and safety reasons, some of the things that I really like to do, we can't do it anymore. For example, I like endurance challenges, but stupidly, and alhamdulillah, nobody got hurt. But we did one where it was an all-night ride. So it was called Fajr in the Lakes. And we were raising money for, can I mention a charity name? Is that okay?
Yeah, for sure.
For Revert to Reality.
Okay.
And the objection was to leave at a certain time, get to the Lake District by Fajr, and obviously when we finish, come back to London. But underestimating the fact that obviously it's going to be a long ride on these powerful sports machines. Getting there wasn't too much of a problem, but getting back was really bad, because now I have brothers of different riding abilities, different levels of fitness. Some of them were like, we stop at a service station, brother would say like, bro, I nearly fell asleep back there on the motorway.
No way.
And stuff like that. So that was the year where we said we're no longer going to do any endurance type of challenges.
And I suppose you feel somewhat responsible because
absolutely, yeah.
You know, the guy who does Deen riding.
Yeah, absolutely. So responsibility, accountability will be mine. However, there are things that we do want to do, which I'm going to be very selective, maybe like 1 or 2 people, but it's going to be really hefty challenge. It's going to be UK based, but again, it's going to be a lot of endurance. So there'll be very little sleep, a lot of fatigue, and whatever cause we do it for, it doesn't matter how much we raise. I think it's still going to be really good.
Would you consider yourself a bit of an adrenaline junkie?
Yeah, I am definitely 100%.
Do you like roller coasters?
To be honest, I'm not a fan of roller coasters. I'd rather be in control of the machine that's about to smash.
Fair enough. At least if something goes wrong, you know, it was like you had control.
Because another thing, like, you know, I could not be on the back of someone's bike, especially if they're riding stupid. Yeah, no, I can't do it. And this misconception that people think that because someone wants to get on the back of your motorbike, they think they want to be thrilled. But sometimes people just want to have a ride in the back of the bike, and you see bikers riding crazy, trying to pop wheelies and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's insane.
But yeah, the way I ride, you know, it's in control. As you know, obviously we can't break the speed limits. But
can anyone get on the back of someone's bike?
Yeah,
because it's like just like a normal passenger for a car.
Yeah.
Man, I've never ridden a bike. But in Pakistan, when like I was really young, there was like 4 of us on one bike. We were riding Pizza Hut because that's like normal there.
Yeah.
But I don't remember that because all I remember is getting on the bike. I don't remember the journey or anything because I was so young. I was like probably like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Back then. But it intrigues me. I don't think I would want to ride a bike because I'm very clumsy, bro. Like I am very careless, very clumsy. I remember when my brother, he got given a gift from my dad. It was a electric scooter.
Yeah.
And this was when we were a lot younger. And I started crying. I was like, no, if he's getting one, I want one. And so my dad had to like fork out all money to buy me one just because I was being a baby about it. And I think I crashed it on the first day.
No.
Bro, I was like, because what happened is it was obviously like, you know, your
throttle.
The throttle.
Yeah.
I was like, must have been leaning on it, and then I like went to go, but like I throttled it like really forward, and I just went flying.
Wow.
And so I would be really bad on a motorbike.
Yeah, I mean, I always say that a bike is only as dangerous as the wrist that pulls the throttle. Yeah, because you know if you are not careful, then you're gonna have a mishap. But there's a lot of challenges. I mean, riding a motorcycle is really challenging if you do it properly. You hear about fatalities where someone's riding along and a car just comes and hit them on the side.
Wow.
So you have to have all these stories, all these anecdotes in your mind. So when you're riding, what's really good, it keeps you young and it keeps you alert if you ride properly, because you should be focused on what's happening, like looking for hazards. Is this guy going to pull out? Most often he's going to pull out. You know, is this bus going to come out here and whatever? So when you're riding, it's always like analysing where the next potential hazard is going to be. And that's really, it makes it more interesting, makes it a lot of fun. So, and the faster you go, the faster you have to start thinking like that. So, you know, in that regard, it's kind of very interesting. And as you mentioned about being on the back of a bike as well, in countries like Pakistan, India, Morocco, Africa, where people are used to being on the back of bikes and, you know, as you said, 2, 3, 4 people on the bike, it becomes such a way of life for them that I think that they actually maybe don't realize just how actually beautiful it is to ride a bike. Because when you actually go out on certain roads and you're, you know, like following the twisties and stuff like that and adjusting your speed for the next corner, it's completely different. Completely different, you know. So, yeah. So,
I have to ask you another question.
Yeah.
How often are you working out, bro?
Me?
I was reading. So just before we start recording, we were praying Salah.
Yeah.
We're praying Dhuhr, and after praying Dhuhr, I was like, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I finished my Salah, and in the Quran, I see a huge tricep, and I'm thinking, Jamal, what is happening? Like, if I, at your age, if I could be that fit and well, man, I'll be a happy bunny. What?
Do you know what? I have no idea what the story is behind that, but it's not through being in the gym.
You know, do you work out regularly?
No.
No.
I mean, I used to obviously it was very much a way of life, and my environment at the moment, mashallah, iERA, it's a beautiful environment. You know, obviously I look around, you got brothers like Hamza,
right,
who is very health conscious.
Yep.
And other brothers as well, really getting on the bandwagon. So we've recently started, we've joined the gym, which is just a few doors away from us.
All of you guys together?
Yeah, pretty much, nice. Yeah. So at different times, you know, we'll go down to the gym. So that culture is really good. But for myself, maybe it is age related, but I'll kind of like get back into it, and then I would lapse. and so on, so forth. But I think I don't know. It's probably because before I was really sort of
that tends to happen once you've done it when you're young. It kind of like stays there. But I'm very surprised that you're not like a regular working out, because mashallah, you're in very good shape.
SubhanAllah.
Are you conscious of your diet?
Yeah. I am definitely, because my stomach is really unfair to me. Right,
Really?
It's very cruel to me. Yeah, like what happens is you spend ages and ages just trying to get it down, and you take a 5-minute break and it's back out again, man. It's crazy.
With me, that's me, but with moobs, like, bro, that's where all my fat goes.
Yeah,
and I'm so conscious. I've always been conscious of it since I was little, because like, it's for some reason my body just loves like all of the fat there, and I'm like, why? And I've had so many people tell me different things, like, oh, it's because you're drinking tap water, or like,
no, that goes too far though, isn't it? When people
yeah, man, I think so as well. I think so.
Yeah.
But it's funny you mentioned iERA, because obviously we've had Hamza on here a few times, and it seems like the culture of iERA is amazing. Like, the way, from what I've heard from him, the way like kind of the staff are treated, and the different outreach specialists you guys have all over the world. How did you get into iERA, and what's it like working there? Is it something that you want to be doing long term?
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, I mean,
what's your specific role? Sorry.
So I deal with the media production, so with the videos and stuff like that. And technically, I'm actually a contractor. I do run my own business, but I am 100% iERA. So even if someone sees me, even now I'm wearing my my company shirt and stuff like that, but I'm 100% iERA, and I think there's good reason for that, and that's because I was there from the beginning, and I heard the initial conversations from Abdurrahim Green and Yusuf talking about this dream and this passion. I was actually working. I actually was employed by Green and Chambers before I started my company. So Green and Chambers were out there. They were like a marketing company. They were like really, amazing, going out helping different charities and stuff. But then you'd have Abdurrahim just talking about his dream, about his passion and stuff, and how he doesn't want to be working in this field for much longer. And eventually it was just like, they've actually started it. So alhamdulillah, was like, when Green and Chambers folded, when it closed, I was thinking, okay, maybe I'm going to be without a job now, but alhamdulillah, I got invited to stay with them, and it's just been amazing.
It seems like a very relaxed environment to work in.
To work in, it's what it is the passion for the dawah means that people are working at different speeds, different like levels, but to attain the same goal. So, for example, if there's a deadline, it will pretty much always be met. So if there's going to be a campaign and someone has a task and needs to get it done, then everyone just works together, and that passion is there. Like, we're going to get this done, we're going to get out there. And, it's really good, because in the beginning, a lot of people used to talk about they used to ask, how many shahadas have you got? And it was never about the shahada, it was about the message and how that message was going to be delivered. So this is why they spent all that time developing the Go Rap and making sure that it became something which was easy and palatable for anyone to be able to give dawah.
The amazing thing is, obviously, like, we're taught that the essence of dawah, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his dawah was calling to Tawheed, and you see that in iERA, that's their focus. Their focus is calling to Tawheed, like, which of course is the most important thing. And I remember being in a class once, and the teacher, he had said that we often hear a phrase of people saying, this is my da'wah, or this is my version of da'wah. And he said, who told you that you can have your own version of da'wah? Like, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I'm getting goosebumps telling you this, because it just hit me even when I'm saying it, which reminds me that, how Allah said, it just takes me off so many angles, like, sometimes, okay, I'll go to that in a second. So he basically said, now who told you that you can have your own da'wah? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us everything, to the point where he even how to answer the call of nature. And so are you telling me that the most important thing, the job of the prophets, which was to call to Allah, he wouldn't have taught us how to do that?
SubhanAllah.
He taught us how to do it, of course, and the only way to do it is to call people to Tawheed, the oneness of Allah. Because and when he told me that, it hit me, because I was thinking, like, but that's a bit basic, isn't it? And I thought, wow, like, once someone
really understands Tawheed and oneness of Allah, they can only come to Islam. Because it's the only true place you can find that there's only one deity worthy of worship.
Yeah.
And it just hit me like a train, man. And that itself reminds me of I can't remember who it was that told me this recently, but they were saying that, you know, Allah says remind the I'm gonna misquote it, but basically the reminder benefits the believers, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you're told something, and it's amazing how you're told remind. Like the word remind means almost that you've heard it before, but I'm telling you again.
Yes,
and it's always impactful, because someone told me recently that when the Prophet ﷺ passed away, and I might get some of this story wrong, so definitely if you guys listen to it, check up on it. But basically, that obviously, understandably, the Sahaba were very, very upset, and the person who told me the story had said that Abu Bakr Siddiq recited an ayah of the Quran to basically explain that, look guys, like, we're here for Islam, basically. Like Allah is who we're still calling to. And it reminded the Sahaba, who are the Sahaba, like the best of people, they at that point were so down about what's the event that has happened, that even they needed that reminder of the Quran to so reminders are so important, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So my point was in all of that I see that in iERA, I see that they call it Tawheed, and that's their fundamental message, and that's what Hamza talks about the most, and that kind of leads to a person, accepting Islam.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, a lot of times, people cannot deny the fact that, when they hear the truth, they know it's the truth. But what the problem is like the understanding that they have to let go of certain things that's going to cloud and get in the way of them, fulfilling that obligation, which is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's the problem. And even myself, when I first realized that Islam was the truth, there are certain things that I was doing, and it was like, I don't think I'm ready to give this up. And those are the factors that led me to not take my shahada at that time. So in actual fact, for myself, I was actually, I was studying Islam for 2 years, first of all, before I actually took shahada. And I was, even up to the time, I wouldn't take my shahada until there were certain things that had to be done. And alhamdulillah, the sheikh who gave me that final push, he I think he was like, obviously one of the wisest people that I know, because subhanallah, he just said, like, don't worry about that now. He said, just take your shahada, just do it now, and then deal with those things. And he was the only person at that time that had actually said that.
Wow.
So I actually did it. I took my shahada, and then very, very quickly afterwards, all the things, the devices and whatever, they'd all gone.
Sometimes that's all you need.
Yeah.
But when we were having a discussion a couple of weeks back at Iman channel, you kind of, I asked you to if you would like to come on a podcast, and you very kindly accepted my offer, and you were intrigued as to kind of what it is that we would maybe discuss, and I mentioned that respectfully, I haven't had a vast amount of people on the podcast who are older than me, or like in the generation above me, right? I'm trying to be so like not offensive here.
So say what you got to say, bro.
So that's basically like I haven't had a sit down chat on a podcast. Someone who is in the generation above me, who is a practicing Muslim and has gone through stages of life that I will inshallah go through, and you're also whether you like it or not, and you'll hate me saying this, but you have an amazing reputation of someone who is very sincere, someone who is, an amazing person for numerous people, or numerous trustworthy people have said this, and Hamza being one of them. And it goes to show, and I've only met you a few times, but the few times that I have met you, I've got that vibe instantly. And so I wanted to have you on to kind of gain that inspiration from you and talk about those things. And I think, and I also mentioned that being someone who started practicing about 5 years ago now, alhamdulillah, I don't come from a non-Muslim family or anything like that, so Allah has made it easy for me in that regard. However, I also don't have many people around me who are in the older generation who are practicing as perhaps or perhaps take it as seriously as I'm trying to think about this. Would you get what I'm trying to say?
I do.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to learn about all of those things. One of those things, as you guys, as you know, is obviously marriage. Marriage is a big thing that so many people go through.
Yeah.
And I would love to hear your perspective of marriage from someone who is, the majority of our listeners are younger, or they're my age, or perhaps a bit younger. The university students, they either just got married,
Right.
or they are looking to get married.
Okay.
Right? And you're someone who has been, how long have you been married now?
I suppose as long as I've been Muslim.
Subhanallah.
Pretty much, yeah.
And I don't obviously know like your in details in your personal life, but from what I can see from the outside, one of the most amazing things is coming to Iman channel and seeing that your wife comes with you.
Yeah.
And she's
So does yours.
Sorry?
So does yours, mashallah.
Yeah. I would love to just get insight, man. Like, do you often have people coming to you and asking for marriage advice, like young people?
Well, actually, I actually do marriage counselling.
Okay.
Marriage workshops, and yeah, so I do actually get the. I suppose it's an honor to be able to help people within this industry. I used to have a marriage website. I had a marriage website, a marriage service. It was a free service. So even when I first started working for Green and Chambers, I actually had my own marriage website, and it was quite popular. It was quite successful at the time. It was a free service, and it was not automated, so I had to do everything myself. Yeah.
But I think it's something that's needed so much, like in our culture and our society, and people are often looking to other people for marriage advice, but they're perhaps not the most qualified for it. And to have someone like you who's kind of been there, done that, and also has heard the marriage stories from so many people. I didn't even know that before the podcast, I didn't know that you did marriage counselling, and hearing that, part of me is frustrated because it's like more people should know this because it's needed, bro.
Yeah.
People need to be able to come to someone to discuss the marriage, come to someone who they can trust, come to someone who has experience in it, come to someone who has knowledge in the religion, and oftentimes it does need to come from, again, forgive me for saying this, but
someone who's older and more
like
mature,
a father figure kind of
yeah.
vibe. And some people don't have that father figure vibe in their life.
So there's certain things that don't come from qualification; they come from experience.
Right.
And obviously, what happens is you observe certain things within people's relationships, and you'll always tend to find that there's only like a small kind of pot of scenarios to do with people's marriages. So it's not as vast as you might think. So the solution then for someone who might be having a problem is not, it's all about the couple, and it's all about them actually, understanding whether they actually want to resolve it or not.
Okay.
And as long as they both sincerely want to resolve it, then they will be able to resolve it. But if it's a case of, I'm just sick to death of this person, I don't want to be here. I was with someone about 2 days ago, actually, and it was the same thing where they were questioning, do I want to be in this or not? And then they were talking about the circumstances within their marriage. And to myself, I was thinking, this person doesn't want to be in this. And sure enough, before the end of the evening, they were asking me, like, can you help me to finish this? And I said to them, that's one thing I don't do. I don't help anyone to get divorced. That's something you have to do by yourself. I only fix things if I can.
Right.
But if you've come to that conclusion that that's where you want to be, then there's easy steps that you can take to do that. And then obviously I leave it to them. Unless, of course, it's a case of domestic violence.
Understandable.
Then I deal with it differently. But
I read a quote that I've mentioned on the podcast before, and it said, an old lady was once asked, how have you and your husband had such a successful marriage all of these years?
Mm-hmm.
And in comparison to the fact that a lot of young people are struggling with their marriages, I said us, and alhamdulillah, I'm not struggling with my marriage. Just to put it out there, in case my wife listens to this episode. But my question was, the quote that she had said was, she said, I lived in an era when if something was broken, we would fix it, not replace it. Would you agree with that?
Yeah,
that too often people nowadays perhaps are saying, this is causing me a bit of stress, I'm going to leave, I'm going to replace it, I'm going to find something else, or there's other options there for me, rather than saying, okay, cool, we have a problem, fine, we're going to have this in our marriage, shall we try and fix it? Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. There's some communities, some parts of our community that they take marriage seriously, even from quite young. They're used to it. They see their parents who've been together for many years, and so for them, if there's an issue, then they will fix it, and they'll work towards fixing it. But some who I suppose have been influenced by things that happen in the wider society, jahiliyyah, things like this, they have a different mentality towards it. So then it becomes a thing like any problems, as you said, I'll just move on. And that's why we have this problem of, so much divorce that's taking place. It's for that reason. But those who truly value their marriage, even from a young age, then they're able to resolve it really, really quickly. But it's a small thing which has been taken out of proportion. And it's just a case of like sitting down and saying, okay, let me think about this, right? Let me, I'm feeling angry at the moment. I'm infuriated right now, but let me just actually think about it. How much of this that's just happened is really me? And no one does that.
Yeah.
No one does that. We are all the same. We're all very arrogant and haughty. There's a few that know, but it's only later when you actually realize, you know what, subhanAllah, I could have dealt with that a bit differently. I overreacted. And then where the problem lies after that is when that one person says, do you know what, I'm going to go and apologize. So they go back and say, you know what, honey, I just thought about it a little bit and I just realized that, I was a little bit wrong and I just want to say I'm sorry. And then she goes, yeah, that's right, because blah, blah, blah. And she starts, and then it goes up again. Whereas, obviously, when you have a situation where they both sort of say, yeah, me too, then khalas, it just gets sorted really, really quickly. So it's about understanding each other and knowing where to stop.
So, obviously, ego is one of the biggest issues that can get in the way. And so what you're basically saying is, when you do have a dispute in a marriage, rather than looking outward, try your best to look inward.
Look inward first, yeah.
Yeah. And say, what is it that I didn't do great? And so perhaps, even if you still disagree with the point that your partner is making, at least you could perhaps look at yourself and say, what did I do wrong though? Did I react to it in the wrong way?
Yeah.
And therefore you could say, look, I apologize for the way I spoke. Because even if I do disagree with you, this shouldn't be the way we do it. It seems to be that saying the words sorry or I was wrong can often feel like the heaviest words.
They are the heaviest words, most definitely. Sometimes it's only easy if you realize that you've upset your partner and they are clearly sort of visibly really upset. So they're no longer angry or vexed or whatever, right? But now they're actually really upset.
Fine.
It's easier to apologize then, right? Unless you're an oppressor, which we spoke about, domestic violence, not here, but it's something which I'm speaking a lot about at the moment. That person, that's completely different. But somebody who, when they realize that, subhanAllah, you feel bad. And when you feel bad, it's easy to go back and apologize. But when you don't feel bad, obviously then it's like resentment kicks in. You see?
If somebody has a type of personality where they don't feel bad, is that then that seems to me that it goes deeper than on that person, like their own psychology. How do you fix something like that? Because now the issue is not necessarily about apologizing with the relationship. It's like me as a person,
as an individual. Yeah, of course. And that's what's really hard, and that's why it's so beautiful that we understand that the Deen and marriage comes hand in hand. Because it's easy for me, if I advise a brother, for example, who he's clearly not the way he should be, then a lot of time I'd say to him, like, bro, you should just think about the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, right? And think about how he would deal with things like this and how he would deal with his wife. And, he wasn't the type of person that would shout like this and whatever. And no one can argue with that. Sometimes we'll say, yeah, but she this, whatever. And it's like, okay, yeah, but even then, everything is just laid out for us that we can do. What did he used to do? He had to get out of that situation. If you feel angry, then leave, right? Get out of the house. And then by the time you come back, even if you come back with a gift, bring something back, right? And, subhanAllah, it's like...
A gift works wonders, right?
A gift works wonders, yeah. I mean...
A bunch of flowers,
some chocolates, and anything like that, anything that she'd appreciate, and it would die down. And there's a lot of hikmah, a lot of wisdom in that, in actually just getting away from it but it's so hard to get out of that. If it's quite heated, that act of walking away, you'd actually have to say to your partner, your wife, for example, you have to say to her, I need to leave now because I don't want this to escalate. I want to calm it down, rather than just saying I'm going out, slamming the door, right? Because obviously they don't like that. When that's going to be brewing. And then when you come back, it's like, you just walked out on me or whatever. So
yeah, no, I think you're right. I think, like you said, that the best things you can do is hold your tongue and say, I'm going to leave. If I don't, I'm going to end up like reacting in a way I don't want to.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave and we'll discuss this later. And getting yourself out of that situation.
But look at the next challenge though, bro. Like you mentioned about ego earlier on. It's like, we can't leave sometimes because
you want to get the last word.
Yeah, it's so we're responsible ourselves. Get up and get out. But no, you can't. No. You gotta hear me. Listen, I'm not afraid to admit that. Even me, I'm guilty of that as well, because it's like no. Maybe I didn't make myself quite clearly enough, just so we can get an understanding. This is what I was trying to say, and obviously it's like no, just get up and go.
Sometimes, like you're saying, when people are very angry, it's just not the best time to talk. And people are not going to use ration. There's going to be anger. So instead of saying, look, just let me get my point across, it's probably better to say, it's probably better, I suppose, like you're saying, just to, walk away.
Why do you think we're promised a mansion and a palace in paradise for, if you, relenting if you're in the wrong? Because it is one of the hardest, toughest things to do. And that's what we should try and to practice ourselves. We go to the gym, right? We look at our diets and all that kind of stuff. But what about looking at our sort of our behavior and how we are? And that's a big challenge,
Guys, just before we get back into the episode, I just want to give a huge thank you to our sponsors at Wahid Invest for helping out with FG. Guys, don't just have your savings sitting in your bank account. Invest them with Wahid. Wahid have helped people all over America put their money into halal investment portfolios, and now they've come to the UK. You can invest as little as £100. You can sign up within seconds and have your account approved instantly. Head over to freshlyground.com/Wahid. Invest your money, invest your savings into a Wahid account. Have your money build money without having to use interest. They invest your money into halal companies. Companies that don't use riba, companies that don't use alcohol, tobacco, etc. And they have a Sharia compliance board. You can find out all the information about it at freshlygrounded.com/Wahid. Check it out, and let's get back into the remainder of this episode.
So I wanted to touch on the idea of men in marriages, and the reason obviously I want to talk about men is because I suppose I am a man, so I can't really speak on behalf of the women. So I'm not victimizing the men here, and I know that there's two sides to every story and stuff, but have you found in your experience of doing your marriage counselling that sometimes, because of as a man, you do want to always remain cool and like, oh no, that's not, I'm not soft, etc., and therefore that could lead someone to like not being like soft and romantic with their wife? And we know from the Sunnah, we know from the sayings of Umar ibn Khattab, who said, be with your wife like a child until, apart from when it's time to be a man, be a man.
I love that.
And so, have you found in your experience in marriage counselling that sometimes that has been an obstacle, the man not being romantic enough, maybe because of those societal barriers?
Yeah, too many times, subhanAllah. And I don't know, it's a strange thing because it's just, I don't know what it is. People are like that. Different cultures as well. There's from a different culture, a particular culture within Islam, where just they don't have that understanding that your wife actually likes to be told that she's beautiful and to appreciate what she does for you, and to buy her really nice gifts just to express how you feel about her. But there's certain cultures, unfortunately, where it's just a case of like, this is what the women do. Right, I'll come home and she will give me my food and blah 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 blah. And when she sits at home, she's probably like daydreams, not necessarily about other people, but daydreams about her husband doing these nice things for her, which is really sad.
And do you think that some of it comes with maturity over time? Like with age, you start to realize that you don't value the things as much as you did when you were younger?
No, I think people who are like that usually are just like that. And
really?
Yeah, and maybe it will take something to happen where they'll actually realize how much they appreciate their wives. But if nothing happened and it's just the same, then they're just like that, and it's accepted as well.
That's the sad thing. It's sad when, you know, if a woman is treated like that as just like, sometimes it's never nice to feel like, hello, like I'm here too, kind of thing. Like this is a two-way marriage. Like maybe ask how I am, or maybe cook me dinner. You know what I mean, and stuff like that. It's never nice to imagine that people are in places where they feel like that.
Yeah.
And then secondly, to just accept it and say, look, well, I guess this is me now.
It's sad. It's sad. I mean, look, the thing that makes a woman happy is to be appreciated, to be noticed, you know, all of these things. And for me, there's nothing more beautiful than when a woman, your wife, beautifies herself, not necessarily for you, but she feels like a woman. So you know, a husband will look at her and see her beautifying herself, and she's looking after herself, and this is something which is, you know, you really would appreciate. But when you don't treat your wife with that respect, or that, you know, with that affection, that you notice her, then she will be thinking, well, there's no point in all of this, and then, you know, things just escalate out of hand then, because now there's a bigger wedge is being driven between them, but they'll never leave each other. Yeah. But with the home is just, I guess it's a bit gloomy.
Do you think that just like there's a stereotype that is not necessarily true in men, that men cheat anyway, and men do this, and they look at other women and this kind of stuff, and this stereotype exists, which is not necessarily true? Do you think there's also a negative stereotype of women where men might think, women are so materialistic, all they care about is like the money, and therefore these kind of stereotypes and notions even can cause issues within marriage before marriage even begins? Like, you know, when you're looking for someone to be married, you often hear like when it's said to a guy, what is it that you're looking for in a woman? Like one of the first things that will often be said, and I'm sure I've said as well, and there's nothing wrong with wanting this, but one of the first things I said is, I want a woman who's not necessarily like materialistic, right? Okay. But why? But the fact that has to be said must mean that we have a negative stereotype of women to say like, the last thing I want is a woman who's like just constantly looking at my pockets and all this kind of stuff. Do we need to eradicate these stereotypes?
Yeah, I mean, actually, you just made me think of something just now, and that is that when you look at specific demographics for this particular topic, because now most of the marriages I deal with, they're sort of more mature age.
Okay.
You know, so nothing changes much, but maybe it's just not as kind of as what's the word, like intense as if it's with a younger couple, for example. So if it's a younger couple, then all of these factors come into play a lot more. You know, so a young brother, for example, who might be looking to get married, and he's got his job, and he's worried that potentially, you know, this woman's gonna sap all his money dry, right? On, you know, her expectations. Like, you know, you hear her say something like, you might have heard high maintenance,
right? Yeah.
And, you know, so what she's used to, he's afraid of the fact that, okay, yeah, she's gonna want my money for to buy a really nice dress. She doesn't buy a cheaper buyer. She has to have one that costs £300 or stuff like that. And then, so yeah, then he kind of judges her based off of that, and it affects the way that they are, you know.
And I think that is sad as well, because what you'll often find is that actually your wife is just as invested in you as you are, because it affects her directly. So like, your wife is your biggest backbone, and probably likewise for the man, for the woman, your husband is your biggest backbone. And when you change the narrative of your marriage from being, I'm expecting this, why didn't I get this, to let me support her on this, let me support him on this, and you just become each other's biggest fans, and you become each other's biggest supporters. It's amazing, because when that person's successful, you say, yes, you did it. And it's like, even though there's nothing in it for me necessarily, like I'm invested in you as a person. Like we're sharing a life together, we're sharing a family together. When you're happy, I'm happy. Rather than, why didn't you do this for me? Why didn't you do this?
But within marriage with younger couples, though, that's it takes a bit longer for that appreciation that you just mentioned,
Right.
Because, for example, everyone knows that women mature quicker than men.
Yeah.
Everyone knows this. So the amount of complaints that you'd get, for example, like, you know, he just sits on his PSP or his Nintendo, whatever. That's the same thing, isn't it, actually? Well,
No,
Nintendo Play and all this kind of stuff, right? And, you know, and it's really frustrating because now, a lot of the time, it's us blokes that are at fault.
Yeah.
You know, because we are a lot more into, because she's into making and building the home. And even if she does like the more expensive and the finer things in life, I mean, when she gets into that house, that new home, she kind of usually gets into that mode of, okay, I've got to make this special.
I'm also going to say something very controversial here, in that there must be something unattractive in a man for a woman who, like, if she's like a married woman and she's got like a grown man husband and she comes home and like he's playing PlayStation.
Yeah.
And I'm probably offending so many people by saying that, because I know gaming is such a big thing, and a lot of like grown men obviously do gaming. So I recently was thinking about buying a PS4 and I didn't end up doing it. So I was like, well, I don't even have the time for it. But and I suppose obviously everyone's allowed to have their hobbies and stuff, like when their downtime.
Yeah.
But you do hear that, like, obviously when women get married, they want to be married to a mature man, right? And like you said, women often mature quicker than men.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It is interesting, because what happens is, right, when we talk about problems with marriages and when we talk about this particular context, right, then if a brother is engrossed in his pastime, which might be like the games and stuff like that, and she wants him to spend a bit of time with her, or she might have an issue of something, you know, whatever, he needs to be doing things around the house as well. Maybe he's left a mess and he says, I want to clear it up later, and it's in her way. But at the time when she said to him, no, you know, you said you're going to have it cleaned up by whatever time, and now he's engrossed in what he's doing, you know, like, maybe a brother who's having such a great fun on his game, right? There's no such thing as a pause button anymore. It doesn't exist. You know, if I pause it now, blah, 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 or whatever. And so these kind of things, it creates a tension. And this is why I'm an advocate for the sisters and the wives, because they definitely exercise more patience than the husband in many, many cases. So look, someone listening now, for example, they're going to say, well, that's not the case with me. Yeah, that's true. But look, on the grander scale of things, right, I mean, it's a massive cacophony of you know, scenarios, right? And so just because you yourself might not have experienced that for yourself, you have to think on the grander scale that there's so many more cases, right, where the woman is more patient than the man, and it's as simple as that, you know. So we need to, if we appreciate that, then we, you know, as you mentioned as well, like there's certain things, gestures that you do straight away for your missus, because you understand how valued she is. You know, you value her highly. So this is the thing. So people tend to, you know, have to live in their own sort of like small world, thinking that everything is based off of them and every context is the same as theirs, but it doesn't work like that. It is completely different.
Do you think that a dangerous thing could be that as a marriage matures as well, that a man or people, a man could think, oh, you know, we got kids now, we've been married for so long, like she's not going to leave me, so like you become less,
take it for granted.
Maybe take it for granted. I even know, like, just generally, like, sometimes I might come home from work and I've had a long day of work, etc., and so I might not make as much of an effort to, like, I don't know, when I come home, make sure my you know, my hair's not a mess and that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, in hindsight, it'll be nice for at least for me to come home and to look presentable for my family now, like, because that is also important. Like, what's the point in me wake up in the morning, make sure I look presentable for work, and I come home and my hair's messed because I've been working all day and I smell and all this kind of stuff. And maybe it's important for me to say, hold on a second, no, I'm coming home now. Like, I should make an effort, if not more than for work here.
Okay, well, I'm going to say something that's going to surprise you a little bit now, but maybe it's straight away or maybe it's a little bit later on in time, but women are equally as guilty as men when it comes to this.
Okay.
Because what you'll find is when your wife is going out to work, she does herself up in a certain way.
Right.
And then she's walking out the door, oh, you look so lovely, boom, bye. She's gone, right?
Yeah.
And when she comes in, they go, oh, you look lovely. Like, yeah. She pulls it all off and it's like,
home.
the onesie comes on, right, with all the holes and stuff like that on there. It's like, okay, where's she gone, man? You know, so yeah, we're all guilty of that.
We need to basically, perhaps.
We should remember, like, there's a beautiful hadith, I think it's a hadith, when it says a husband and wife should look good for each other. And so we do need to remember that. So even like, you know, when our beautiful wives comes home and, you know, although she's tired and whatever, maybe she should just say, you know what, let me just sit, you know, for a few minutes and so you can absorb all this fineness. And also for us as well, we should do the same thing. Like we come home, we look good and whatever. And then after a while, then you can, you know, I used to say that, you know, there's a period of time, there's a grace period where, you know, where it's acceptable for your wife when you come home for her to be wearing a onesie, right? Or the old muumuu, as I used to call it as well, like that big sort of sheet that just like hangs and drags on the floor, right? But in the beginning, obviously, we used to try for each other to look good for each other. And then after a while, it's like, okay, you know, it's just one of those things, isn't it? You know, it's almost oppressive for you to come home and expect her to be like, just, wow, mashallah, you know, what have you done all day then? You just, I'm just sitting there, couldn't move because I didn't want to crease this, or whatever. But, you know, subhanAllah, we're not servants to each other. And even though some men may not like for me to say something like that, I mean, again, just think and refer back to the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and how he was with his wives, right? And that's it. That's the benchmark, man. You know, so we have to treat them with love and respect. And because he did.
I could talk about marriage all day.
Yeah,
I know you
here,
could. And I'd love to have you on one day where we have just a discussion about marriage, man. Because I think it's so beneficial. Like I said before, you know, a lot of our listeners are either getting married now or they have been married very recently or they're looking for marriage. And so I think it's a huge topic. But I'm conscious of your time. Jazakallah khair for giving us your time. Just to round it up, is marriage counselling something? Because I know it's not what you do full time or anything like that. But is it something that if someone is listening and they feel like they could do with like that figure to speak to who is, you know, like non-biased, is that something that you're open to doing, marriage counselling? And if so, can they contact you and how could they contact you?
I mean, I would say, I mean, anyone who knows me and they have these sort of issues, then they, you know, usually find their way to me anyway. On a wider scale, I think, like, obviously, you know, your show goes out really far and wide. So I would more advise to maybe look up in their area someone who can help, because it takes a lot of commitment and time to do it properly. So yes, you know, there have been times where I've been able to, in one sitting, help to resolve, you know, a problem within a marriage. But other times it takes a lot longer as well. And I like to be, I suppose, sincere to someone's situation, their condition.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so obviously it's better to, even if you have to pay someone, for example, then do it. But a lot of time, you know, subhanAllah, if you can't find anybody else, then definitely come to me, 100%. Don't sort of let things, you know, come to a point of no return.
I remember Dave Ramsey, who is like this, he's like a finance guru, quote unquote, and he's a Christian, and he said something that was quite powerful, and he said that divorce is on the same level of bankruptcy. Because I remember you saying that you don't help people with the divorce, and what he meant by that is that it's not something where you say, oh, I'm in a bit of financial struggle, let me file for bankruptcy. No, it's your last option when you have tried everything to fix it. And likewise, he said, is divorce. Like he said, I'm not going to say and promote divorce. You know, you try every avenue to fix your marriage first. So I think that was very powerful. Jamal, thank you so much for coming to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, bro. It's been a real pleasure, man.
How did you find it?
It's really amazing, bro. Was really, I'm not even joking. No, it was really relaxed. It was just really nice. I knew, obviously, we've worked together before, but in a different capacity.
Yeah, so it's very like 5, 4, 3. It's like, oh my God, guys are coming back from the break.
No, this was so chilled. I mean, if I didn't have to go, I'd just say, bro, I'm sorry, you have to call the security to get me out of this building.
Oh,
I'm not leaving.
Man, honestly, it'd be so much. I think we could have spoke for 2, 3, 4 hours about this. So thank you so much, and please do come back one day.
Thank you very much.
You're always more than welcome on Freshly Grounded.
Thank you, bro. Jazakallah, much appreciated. Wa alaikum salam.